Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you the top 5 books that I read this winter. So I have now tried filming this video 3 different times, and it's just been a process. With the whole coronavirus thing and our lives kind of all being put on hold, it's just kind of put a different mindset in the way that our scheduling for our family has been going. I am now a lot more intentional about what the kids are doing. They're home full time now for the foreseeable future, and I'm having to kind of monitor them more closely and making sure that they're doing things. And so it's not allowing me the downtime and the free time to do things like make booktube videos. So my content may be sparse moving forward until this whole thing kind of clears up. But know that I'm here. We're all hanging in there. I'm just prioritizing my family like I should be. So that's kind of where we're at with this. But today I want to share with you my top 5 favorite books that I read this winter. I do seasonal TBRs, and so I also do like seasonal favorites videos where I try to tell you the top 5 books that I read within a season. By winter season, I consider December, January, February. So these are going to be my favorite books that I read this December, January, February. These are not all 5-star books. Not all of my 5-star books are on this list. It's just kind of my 5 favorite reading experiences that I had, books that I really enjoyed. They might not have been a complete 5-star book, but I really loved them. And then I have some 5-star books that I loved, but they weren't my favorite like reading experience. I don't even know if that makes sense. But I'll have to do a video on kind of how I rate books, and maybe then that will all make sense, but that's for another day. So anyway, the first book that I want to share with you today is A Boy Called Christmas. This is by Matt Haig. It is a middle grade book that I read in December, and it is about a little boy, Nicholas, whose father has kind of gone off on this magical expedition and doesn't come home. And so Nicholas goes off to try to find him. And that's kind of the starting off point, more or less, and you could just kind of follow him from there. And I'm sure you can probably imagine what the outcome of his adventure is, but the whole way getting there was so beautifully written. I loved it so much. It is a story full of hope and love and magic, and yeah. So anyway, absolutely love that one. The next book that I wanted to mention is Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery. This is my thrifted copy. It is not my favorite version of Anne of Green Gables, not by a long shot. My favorite covers for these books are actually the Tundra Books edition, which I think is a Canadian publisher maybe. And I am trying to convince myself that I need to spend the money and buy Anne of Green Gables in the Tundra cover. But if I do that, I probably am going to want to buy the whole series, and that's going to cost me like $80. So I don't know, we'll see. But for now, I'm just hanging on to my thrifted copy. But this I read in January. Tia from Tia and All the Books and I are doing an Anne Along, Anne of Green Gables read along during 2020. And so that we started in January with this, and this book was pure, just loved it. It's about a little orphan Anne who is adopted by a brother and sister, elderly brother and sister duo, and it's just about her life. And this specific book follows her from, I think it's age 10 or 11 through age 16. And there's so many just like quotes in here that just touch your heart, and you just learn so much from Anne, and the wisdom that is in this little girl's brain is just, I loved it. So anyway, that one was fantastic. Another one that I read in January that I absolutely loved is a nonfiction book, and that is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. This is like I said, nonfiction. I listened to the audiobook of this though, and it is about Bryan Stevenson's journey with being a death trial lawyer. So he is a lawyer that works for a nonprofit in the South that works towards getting wrongfully accused people off of death row and out of the prison system in general, but he does a lot of work with death row inmates. And this book just opened my eyes to the atrocities that happen within the jail justice system in the United States currently. I mean, this is most of what he talks about in this book was set in like the 80s and 90s, but a lot of this stuff is still happening today. And I was unaware of a lot of it. And so, me living in the little bubble of the Midwest that I do, I don't hear about a lot of these things. And so I love nonfiction books that can just open my eyes to a new experience that I have never seen or heard of. Well, I've heard of it, but you know what I mean. But anyway, so it just gave me a new perspective on life, and I loved it. I thought his perspective was great. There was a quote in this book that really stood out to me, and he basically said that the opposite of poverty is not wealth, it's justice. And that for me just really resonated a lot, and I understood that, and I can see that moving forward. I can have that kind of lens on when I look at different things. And anyway, love this book. Definitely check it out if you haven't. It is worth the listen or the read, either way. But anyway, moving on. The next book that I wanted to share with you is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. This is one that I read during Historathon in February, and it is an historical fiction book set in the 1930s, and it follows a group of women that are part of the Packhorse Library that was set up by Eleanor Roosevelt. So she kind of set up this Packhorse Library to allow library books to go out into the rural communities, to get books into people's hands who might not go into town to go to a library. And it was a marvelous program, but this book follows a few different women in this town that are all in different kind of life experience situations, and we just follow their lives. So this book, the Packhorse Library, is an aspect of the book, but the majority of the book is really centered around these women's lives and about empowering women, and just the importance of friendship and the importance of trust and standing up for yourself and standing firm in your convictions. And I absolutely loved this book. I do know that this has been compared to the book Woman of Troublesome Creek a lot. I have not read that book yet. It is on my TBR. I am planning on reading it. But in my understanding, that book deals more with the blue people of the Appalachian, or of Appalachia. I don't know if I said that right, but whatever. And so this book dealt more with just this little community and a little bit of the Packhorse Library, whereas the book Woman of Troublesome Creek deals more with the blue people, but also has to do with the Packhorse Library as well. So anyway, absolutely love The Giver of Stars, though. I thought it had me on the edge of my seat at times. It had me very invested in the characters. I really enjoyed it. And then the last book that I wanted to mention is another book I read during Historathon, and that is Molokai by Alan Brennert. This is one that I listened to this one on audiobook as well. It follows our main character, Rachel, who lives in Hawaii in the very late 1800s, early 1900s, and it follows her throughout her life from the age of 8 all the way until her death. And so it's one of those stories that just spans a very long amount of time. But Rachel, at the age of 8, contracts leprosy. And at that time in Hawaii, they had a leper colony that they would send people to. And so she gets sent to this leper colony without any of her family. And it's just about her life surviving in this leper colony. And it was so good. This book, I learned so much in this book about how leprosy was handled during this time, especially in Hawaii, about Hawaiian culture, about just the process of the Americans kind of coming in and taking over Hawaii a little bit. There's World War II. It spans the time of World War II in this, and Pearl Harbor. There's just so much in this book, and it was so good. I really want to get to Daughter of Molokai, which is kind of in a companion maybe or sequel to this. I don't know, but this was one of my favorite reads of February by far. It was just so thought-provoking, and I learned so much by reading it. And I love books where I learn a lot because I'm a nerd like that. So anyway, those are the top 5 books that I read this winter. If you have read any of these, I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts about them down below. I would also love to hear what your favorite book that you read this winter was. And yeah, other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya!